If you're a coach or an agency struggling with low booking rates, low show rates, brutal sales calls, prospects ghosting you after they say, let me think about it, which I can also help you prevent, I'm going to show you exactly why this is happening. I'm going to give you a step-by-step protocol today on how to fix it. By the end of this video, you'll have a diagnostic framework to identify what I call PBS, premature booking syndrome, in your business, a week-by-week reversal protocol to cure it, and the research that proves why this approach will transform your sales process. But first, you need to understand why this problem is so dangerous. So we're going to use medicine as an example. There's something called hypertension, which is known in medicine as the silent killer. It's a condition where blood pressure remains elevated over time and often doesn't have any kind of symptoms that you can see. When I was doing research for this, I think I found that 30% of Americans or so many America stereotypes in this, I think 30% of Americans suffer from hypertension, elevated blood pressure. And here's what makes it so deadly. It's that while you feel completely normal, the elevated blood pressure is slowly damaging your arteries, weakening your heart, and creating micro tears in blood vessels. Patients can go years feeling fine while their cardiovascular system deteriorates, and then one day, heart attack, stroke, organ failure, something catastrophic happens. The damage was happening all along, but by the time the symptoms appear, it's too late for full recovery. The thing that I thought of when I was writing this is it's the exact opposite of your overnight success. An overnight success is years of hard work and good habit and small labors done consistently over a long time horizon, and then one day, everything booms. That's an overnight success in everyone's book. This is the exact opposite. It's negative habits, malicious habits that for years go unnoticed until one night, overnight catastrophic failure. And the reason that hypertension is so insidious is that it creates systematic damage. It's not just affecting one organ, it's affecting the entire circulatory system. Every heartbeat is working against you instead of for you. In business, this is what PBS, premature booking syndrome, does in the exact same way. To define PBS in the most simple way, it's when you try to book prospects into sales calls before they're ready to buy. It looks productive, it feels like you're taking action, you might even close a few deals, but just like hypertension, PBS is creating systematic damage across your entire business and brand that you can't even feel or see in the moment. Every premature booking attempt is weakening your brand authority. Every unqualified prospect you get on a call is burning audience trust and your personal emotional battery. Every desperate book now post is training your market to see you as needy rather than an expert. And we're selling expert-based materials. As coaches and agencies, that's what we're doing, selling expert-based products. You're creating micro tears in your relationship with your audience that compound over time until one day your content stops working, your audience stops engaging, and your sales process completely breaks down. The worst part, just like medical hypertension, is by the time you notice the symptoms of PBS, the damage to your business, reputation, and the market positioning you have, it can take months or years, if ever, to reverse. But don't worry, today I got you. I'm going to break down exactly why PBS develops, how to diagnose it in your business, and most importantly, how to reverse it before it causes permanent damage. Now, like everything I write, let's get into why this happens in the first place. If we understand why this happens, we can more effectively fix it. And there are two types of fallacies we fall into. Every single one of us, even Elon Musk, would fall into these: logical fallacies and emotional fallacies. The better we get at recognizing these fallacies, the more effectively we can prevent ourselves from thinking like this in the future. Fallacy number one is confusing activity with progress. I talk about this all the time. Sprinting on a treadmill versus riding a bike down the freeway. Most entrepreneurs suffering from PBS believe that more calendar bookings equals more business growth. They see an empty calendar and think to themselves, I need to book more calls. But here's the reality. Booking unqualified prospects is not progress. It's expensive, busy work. Every hour you spend on a call with someone who isn't ready to buy is an hour you're not spending on activities that actually move the business forward. I have a friend at the office with me right now, and we were in the car, headed back to mine. He's staying in mine for a few weeks, and we were talking about this exact subject, that every single minute that he is spending not creating something, he is now wasting in business. What I mean by that is it's great to take client calls. It's great to take sales calls. But at the end of the day, the only things that really move a business forward are things that you build that last. Every single day when I get to the office, the very first thing I do is build something that will last in the business for years to come. Second fallacy is the conversion rate misconception. So most people who suffer from PBS are looking for efficiency in an inefficient system. If I could just close 30% instead of closing 20%, I would hit my goals. And I also love it when business owners play out all these hypothetical numbers on their G sheet. This is so many B2B coaches do this too. They'll just put down all these numbers to show you how easy it is to get to $1 million a month or 500 grand a month or 100 grand a month. In reality, it's all fugazi, but I digress. Doing this is treating a symptom. It's not the disease. It's like I talked about in my last video, trying to create efficiency in an inefficient system. When you're booking prospects prematurely, you're not dealing with a conversion problem, you're dealing with a qualification problem, more so a convincing problem on the 3 C's. You can't close your way out of a poor booking strategy. The third logical fallacy is the urgency illusion, which is that most entrepreneurs with PBS believe that speed equals competitive advantage. And that's true to an extent, but it's not true when you start thinking to yourself, if I don't get them on a call this week, my competitor will. The truth is that if a prospect is so easily swayed by whoever contacts them first, they were never qualified to begin begin with, quality prospects don't make decisions based on who happened to slide into their DMs first. This is a very beginner point, but the only reason I included it is because I see so many people fall to it. I understand speed in business. I'm a huge advocate for blitzkrieg speed, blitzkrieg sprints, but speed should be applied to creating in business. Slow, steady, timeliness should be applied to sales in business. After logical fallacies, because we're humans, we also deal with emotional triggers. And I know in business, we're supposed to be logical, but let's be honest, every single human is also emotional. The first thing that normally triggers PBS is calendar anxiety. There's something viscerally uncomfortable about having an empty calendar when you're trying to grow a business. It feels like you're failing. It feels like you're not doing enough. So entrepreneurs start trying to fill it with anyone who will book, regardless of qualification. Don't do that. Trigger number 2 is comparison pressure. Even I still get this. You see other coaches posting about their 20 calls this week or a fully booked calendar, and you think you're falling behind, but what you're not seeing is their show rate, their close rate, their client satisfaction, their revenue per hour, or a stat that no one tracks, their time to offer, how long it takes to get an offer in front of someone. I don't know an entrepreneur who doesn't fall short to comparison pressure. Number 3, third trigger is cash flow. And this, by the way, is why it's so important to make sure that if you're growing a business like this, you have to be profit-centric. You have to make sure you have a rainy day account, because there are so many things you can do to avoid cash flow panic. But this is a hard one. Once you're in a cash flow panic state, it's a hard one to not try to book calls with. But when your revenue dips and you don't have a rainy day account, when your business isn't heavily profiting because of inefficiency, the immediate instinct is to try to book more calls. It's the business equivalent of emotional eating. You know it's not good for you long term, but it provides temporary relief from the anxiety. This emotional trigger out of the 3 is the hardest to combat. The best thing you can do is just have a profitable business, steward finances well, and make sure that you have a rainy day account so that you never have to worry about cash flow, never have to worry about profit, about overhead, about personal expenses. Trigger number 3 is hard, best if avoided. Now that we know what PPS is, the logical fallacies that lead to it, the emotional triggers that stem from it, let's find out how to identify it. So here's your diagnostic framework. Just like a doctor would be looking for hypertension with blood pressure, there are quantitative indicators that show whether or not you're suffering from PPS. Number 1 is a show rate below 70%, which to you and 95% of other coaches is well beyond where you are. Number 2 is scheduled to close below 35%, meaning you're not closing 35% of your offers made. You're not closing 35% of the calls that you actually take. You're closing 35% plus of the calls that are scheduled to the sales calendar in the first place. If you're not there, trust me, 90% of the industry is not, but that's also when 90% of the industry is struggling financially. The third indicator on this is an average time from first touch point to booking is less than 7 days. Normally, after working with thousands of agencies and coaches, everyone's trying to book within 3 or 4 days. If that's you, if your calendar on Calendly only goes out 2 or 3 days and you're sending it to people who found you yesterday, so if you're hitting 2 out of 3 of these metrics, you have mild PBS. I would say medium, but all 3, you are in the danger zone. There are more metrics we can check out though as good indicators. Declining story views after posting booking CTAs. If you are CTAing on your story and you notice after the story views plummet, it's a really good sign that you're doing it too often. You'll note that I very rarely CTA out my stories on Instagram. I probably have done it 3 times in the last year. Comments that are generic rather than actual substance. DM responses dropping by more than 30% week over week. Spending more than 15 minutes per sales call explaining what you do. This is a really common one. Of the time allocation of a sales call, a majority of it should be spent on discovery and then onboarding. But it's never that case with coaches or agencies. But I'm sure if you audited your sales calls or your team sales calls, the majority of time is spent explaining what you do, explaining your product, and then handling objections for another 20 minutes because you're trying to do what you should do and convince in your convert stage. I've talked about that yesterday as well. Go watch that video. You're probably, like a majority of coaches, facing pricing objections on over half your calls. Prospects are asking you to think about it. I want to also clarify here, think about it is also just a route to not understanding the proper framework and tie downs of a sales call. But a lot of you guys are getting deference objections or smoke screens. These are all indicators that you have PBS, that you have premature booking syndrome. You're putting people on the calendar too early. But you can also check out behavioral patterns. These are less quantitative, more intangible, but just quickly going through, think about how often you're broadcasting to book a call. If you're doing it more than twice a week across all your platforms, your content strategy is dissolved into value post, then sell, value post, and then sell. It's a very lazy way of booking calls, but a majority of you do it. We call it desperation broadcasting. The wide net syndrome, this is every coach and agency under the sun right now. You're saying yes. I want you to think about this as you watch this video. You are saying yes to anyone who wants to book, regardless of their stated budget, their timeline, or understanding of the process. Your qualification process consists of, can you pay me? This is why every coach and agency right now is coming out with some kind of low ticket offer or downsell so that you can liquidate ad spend or liquidate your content cost. Everyone's trying to make sure they can get $1 from anyone who's willing to pay them $1. In reality, what you need to do is you need to be very clear on who you work with and who you don't work with, and it goes 10 times further. And then getting back to the sales behavior I talked about earlier, your sales calls are just explanation sessions where you're taking all the time in the world to pitch your product instead of actually having a proper discovery and onboarding. This is why your sales calls run over. This is why it's so hard for you to hire a sales team. Let me actually pause here and make a serious point on this. Not only will it feel counterintuitive, but it's also going to slow down your business for at least a few weeks, conservatively, realistically, probably a couple months, if not 1 to 2 quarters. And the reason for it is to do this the right way, to build a business the right way that gets long-term gains, that doesn't need as much maintenance, that brings prospects in that want to work with you, that want to pay you, that want to actually implement the strategies that you're trying to take them through. To do all that, to get that benefit, those are long-term gains, which take some time to create, which take some time to show fruits. And if you have that, if you thought about a business trying to find long-term gains, while this exponential curve starts to fire off, you have a dead period down here where there's just not much traction. And right now what you're doing is to negate that, you are putting short-term wins here so you can have cash in the short term, but that kills the long-term growth. And the reason I'm saying that is because when you stop the short-term gains for the long-term gains, business slows down, obviously, for a couple of months, not a quarter or two. And most business owners, even though they say they have long-term horizons, are not willing to lose the short-term gains. Most business owners also can't because they're not running profitable machines, because their businesses are so inefficient that they pay for the inefficiency with overhead, with team members, with more ad spend, etc. So they actually don't even have the profits to stay in business long enough to look for long-term gains. It's a really big mess of this industry. Nonetheless, we're going to try to solve this. Hypertension in your business, just like if we were medical doctors. I'm not a medical doctor, by the way. I feel like I have to disclaim that, obviously. Short-term disciplines create long-term health. So week 1 and 2, the next 2 weeks, what I want you to do is an emergency intervention with your entire team, which means if you have a sales team, they're going to hate this. Stop direct booking CTAs. Remove every book a call link from your content. If you ever check out my YouTube videos, there's no book a call link in our YouTube videos. There's no book a call link in my Instagram bios. There's never really a book a call on a CTA on my story. I've probably done it 3 times in the last year. This doesn't mean that you stop booking calls. It just means that you stop actively pushing people toward a book a call as the first part of your process. Implement the 48-hour rule, which means that anyone who does book a call or anyone who wants to book a call has to book at least 48 hours out, which actually expresses genuine interest in wanting to schedule. The single change will eliminate 70% of your unqualified prospects. If I had to take a guess, you probably have a 2 or 3 day window on your cal.com, your schedule, once your Calendly, whatever you're using for your booking links. Prospects probably can't book out 4+ days. In my method, I want prospects to book out at least 2 days from now, which is completely counterintuitive to any kind of normal funnel. If you're running paid ads, if you're running short form, you have this attention, get them on a call right away when you have attention, otherwise show rate decreases. That just shows you have a bad system. If people aren't willing to wait 2 days to talk to you, and in that 2 days research more about you, it's probably not a good lead. But for some reason, everyone does the exact inverse of what actually works. Last thing I want you to do in the first 2 weeks is just look and audit your qualification process. Simply said, you have qualification questions on your booking form. A lot of you will take off your qualification questions from the booking form so that you increase bookings, which is ludicrous. You're essentially saying, hey, people aren't willing to fill out a form to book a call, so I want to take down resistance to allow them to book a call, and then I'll try to qualify after, which is stupid. If someone's not willing to answer 4 or 5 questions to get on a call with you, then they're probably not the best fit to hop on a call with you. In other words, they are probably premature in your marketing system to hop on a call. Almost as if there was a term called premature booking syndrome. Weeks 3 to 4, I want you to start actually working on your content. A lot of you guys are trying content already, just doing it poorly. A lot of you guys aren't doing content, which is silly. I will say here that 99% of people in the business world just don't understand how to actually position content to be effective, which is why everyone starts to quit after a little bit. That and the fact that content takes forever. But I want you to start shifting your content to belief architecture content, meaning content that is expert-based long-form content where you're not trying to sell your solution, you're just trying to help people solve a specific problem. If you think about this video, I will CTA D7 at the end of this, but I'm trying to make sure you understand what your problem is, and I'm trying to make sure you understand how to fix your problem. So I gave you what the problem is, why you probably have it, why you're falling into it. I gave you the measurements to look at, or the indicators to look at whether or not you have this problem, and now I'm giving you the solution on how to solve said problem. So this is hopefully value content, not CTA kind of content. Next thing I want you to do is introduce the 3-touch minimum. We started doing this when Instagram allowed you to start to see the shared activity in a page. I said here nobody gets to book, but what we actually do now is we look at it after booking. Once someone books, we check out their Instagram page from Daily Business, pauldaily.business, from Daily Wisdom and Paul Daily, and we see if they've engaged with posts on my account at least 3 times. You can also go check out YouTube Studio and look up a name and see if they've engaged with any of your YouTube content. I will say the more B2B your market, the less this is important, because people in the business world don't tend to like and engage and such with your content as often as people in the B2C world. Last parts of week 3 and 4 start the education sequence. creating content that demonstrates your expertise without pitching your services. This is the behind the scenes contrarian takes on your industry standards. This is your email sequences. We have a 90-day email sequence. We do daily Scrum twice a week. We have a new 7-day training on how to position yourself as the premium choice in your market. If you want that training, by the way, you can go to my Instagram, pauldaily.business, and there's a form to sign up for the newsletter and training in my bio. Weeks 5 to 8, installing trust architecture, extend your buying window. This is so counterintuitive for all of you guys. Your new standard is a minimum of 14 days from first awareness, meaning first time they saw your ad, first time they saw your content, etc., to a booking opportunity. For higher ticket offers, 10K plus, it should be 45 days, but in the habit of growing this, we said 30 days. And lastly, I want you guys to create consumption assignments, meaning before and after someone books, what do they need to consume in order to book? So example given, you can't book for Daily 7 without first going through our Daily 7 offer video or explainer, explaining what Daily 7 is, what it costs, how it works, etc. We don't in Daily 7 even use testimonials. If you look for Daily 7 testimonials, you're not going to find any. Probably should, to be fully transparent with you, but we don't have any testimonials on our explainer stuff. We don't have any testimonials on our managing shop flow, etc. We just try to prove that we are competent and that what we're talking about. In the same way, I need you to do the same. If you're selling an expert-based product, meaning agency or coaching, you need to show how you think and you need to show your process. You need to show the competence and expertise that you're telling people that you have, because that's what they're going to buy into. Weeks 9 to 12, if applicable, not everyone can do this, build a wait list. There's a few qualifiers on whether or not it's actually worth you and your industry, your offer, etc., to build a wait list. But if you can, it's incredibly powerful. To throttle sales like that is a massive feat. Implementing quarterly enrollment windows. So we did this for a little bit. We don't do it anymore, but we used to only take people 4 times a year into D7. We started doing things more evergreen. But if you look at Iman Gadji, for example, with Monetize, this is what he's doing: enrollment windows via events, and then create an application process. Make prospects apply to work with you, not the other way around. This change is only possible when you run what we call the anti-funnel. When someone is actually trying to work with you, you can't take someone who you're actively trying to sell and make them apply to your stuff so that you can actively try to sell them. But if people are genuinely coming to you and want to work with you, you can run an actual application process and it changes the entire sales dynamic. To back this, and I really should have put this at the very beginning of the doc, but I didn't know how to put it in with the flow. The framework I just outlined isn't based on theory. It's based on how sophisticated buyers actually make decisions. So Google famously made the 7-11-4 rule, which found that B2B buyers need 7 hours of interaction with your brand across 11 touch points across 4 different platforms before they're ready to purchase. But there's more research that supports it. Gartner's research shows that customers are 57% through their buying process before they ever engage with the sales team. A recent study by the Corporate Executive Board found that in B2B sales, customers who were given extensive educational content before the sales contact had a 23% higher close rate and an 18% higher contract value. That same board also discovered something fascinating, which is that customers exposed to high-quality educational content were 67% more likely to purchase from the company that educated them, even if that company wasn't the cheapest option. I talked about yesterday in yesterday's video on how you need to be on a research-centric platform. It doesn't have to be YouTube. There are plenty of ways that people research, but research is where the sale is done. Don't be someone who tries to sneak in and swoop the sale at the very end. Be a part of the research and then be a part of the sale. All of this said, what I have found best as to how to explain doing all this is what I call the anti-funnel, which is what I call building trust architecture at scale. And you do that by building category leadership, subcategory leadership, followed by category dominance through demonstrated competence. And the word competence, by the way, I feel like is a negative word in most people's dictionary, mental dictionary, but the word competence to me is a very powerful word. Most people are not competent in the thing that they're looking to buy as a product, meaning they are looking for someone who is more competent in said thing than they are. So show your competence. Here's how the anti-funnel works. Number one is that you have to create a subcategory instead of trying to compete in a crowded market. This isn't about finding a blue ocean, which is probably one of the hardest skill sets in entrepreneurship to have. It's about defining a corner of the industry or the space that you're in. Number two is belief architecture. Your content has to become a systematic belief shifting machine. You have to be able to dismantle pre-positioned beliefs and install new beliefs. And that is done through every piece of content you create, showing, again, your competence and also your unique approach. Trust acceleration is number three, which in short means compressing the timeline of trust building from months to weeks, taking that 7-11-4 and having that happen as fast as possible. The result of that is that your sales calls become low resistance consultations rather than high resistance. Let me tell you about how we work so that you can say no, and then I'll try to handle your objections for 20 minutes. When you recognize you have PBS and you kill the behaviors that lead to it, and you implement our anti-funnel approach, here's what changes. Number one is your show rates will drastically climb. A lot of our clients are seeing 90+%, but 85% plus, because only qualified, interested prospects book your calls. Your scheduled calls will probably drop, but your live calls will actually increase from what you probably currently have because your show rate goes up. And from that, you're actually getting in front of people that you can close more effectively because they know what you do, they know what your beliefs are, they know what your price is, the way that we do it. So people are booking to buy. In fact, with this system, when deals aren't closed, I don't look at what the closer could have done more effectively to close the deal. I look at what the closer did to lose the deal. And because people are coming in with this perspective, because they already know what you do, because they aren't being pressed into it, because they've made a long thought decision with plenty of logic behind it, because they're not emotionally rash, your client retention improves and your client success improves because they're actually willing to implement your beliefs and your systems. As if that wasn't all enough, your pricing power increases because you're no longer competing with the rest of the crowd. You own a subcategory, and when you own a subcategory, you don't compete with the rest of that subcategory. And your business becomes more sustainable because it becomes more profitable, it becomes more efficient, the growth compounds. From here on out, this is where I see TA. You have two paths. Number one is you can keep doing what you're doing. Definition of insanity is what I could get into there. You can optimize your booking funnel. You can take the path I talked about yesterday, taking your inefficient vehicle and making certain mechanisms inside of it more efficient. Or you could take path number two and treat the actual disease. You could cure the PBS, you could build the anti-funnel, and you could create a business that gets easier to run over time, not harder. If you want my help, if you're generating more than $25,000 a month in your business and you want me to help you install the anti-funnel, if you want me to help you cure your PBS, if you want me to help you create the entire plan on how to own your subcategory, if you want me to help you find product market fit, that's what I do inside of Daily 7, my founder's incubator. And I would love to show you what that looks like. All you have to do is message me 7 on Instagram, and my team will send you a full doc on how it works. I hope you found this enjoyable. I hope you found it valuable. If you liked it, comment down below what you found valuable from it. Until next time, as always, happy hunting.